Hello, I'm James Macquarie, one of the founders at GLAD. This is our Breaking Down Climate Pollution podcast, in which we ask AI to generate a deep dive conversation based on the climate science or policy document that we'd like to learn more about. In this episode, we ask the AI to take a deep dive into the Oxford Principles for Net Zero, unpacking the complexities of net zero pledges, moving beyond mere buzzwords to real impactful actions, emphasizing the importance of minimizing emissions before resorting to offsets, and shedding light on the significance of transparency and accountability to combat greenwashing. Let's dive in.
Okay, so net zero pledges, right? They're everywhere these days. Seems like every company's tripping over themselves to promise a greener future, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a buzzword bingo out there.
Totally. But here's the thing that bugs me. A lot of these plans are all about carbon offsetting. But like, what does that even mean? It's kind of murky, right? You got what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. It's a complex landscape, and I think a lot of folks are feeling a bit lost. That's why we're diving into these Oxford principles for net zero line carbon offsetting.
Right. Because these principles, this isn't just like some random blog post, right? It's like the experts on experts saying this is how you offset, right?
You're right. Precisely. This is the culmination of work by a whole brain trust over at Oxford University, climate scientists, economists, the whole shebang. They came together to set the gold standard, basically.
Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. So this document is like the rule book if you're serious about actually hitting net zero, not just, looking good on paper.
You got it. And the very first principle, it's almost like, well, duh, but it's crucial.
Okay, hit me with it. What's rule number 1 in the net zero playbook?
Simply put, get your own house in order first. Before you even think about offsetting, you got to minimize your own emissions. Walk the walk,
So no more ordering that extra takeout if I'm trying to offset my cross-country flight. Busted.
Well, maybe not that literally, but you're getting at the heart of it. It's about a genuine commitment to reducing your impact across the board, whether you're a company or just trying to make better choices in your own life.
Speaking of companies, they mentioned something called the mitigation hierarchy. What's the deal with that?
Think of it as a roadmap or a checklist almost. It pushes companies to try everything else first, like getting more efficient with energy, switching to renewables, really redesigning things before they even think about offsetting.
Okay, so it's like real action first, not just throwing money at the problem and feeling good about yourself. I like it. But let's be real. We've all heard those stories, right? Offsetting scams, greenwashing, the whole 9 yards. How do the Oxford principles tackle that whole mess?
You're right. To be skeptical, there's been a lot of shady stuff. That's why these principles are all about integrity and transparency. You can't just say you're offsetting. Got to prove it and prove it's actually making a difference.
So no more planting trees that were already going to be planted anyway, or claiming credit for like a wind farm that was already in the works.
Exactly. It has to be real additional impact. That's why they hammer down on verified projects, strong methodologies, no double dipping. Everyone can see exactly what's being done.
Okay, yeah, I'm starting to see why this first principle is so huge. It's not just doing something, but doing the right thing and being upfront about it. This is next level stuff.
Absolutely. It sets a new bar, one that's rooted in science and accountability.
This is already blowing my mind, and we're just on principle 1. It's like we could do a whole nother deep dive on this alone. But I'm ready for more. What's next on the agenda?
Well, buckle up, because principle 2 is where things get really interesting.
Principle 2. All right, lay it on me. So we've slashed our emissions. We're all about real reductions. Transparency is king. What's the next level in this whole net zero quest?
Okay, so here's where things get wild. Principle 2 says, by 2050, it's not enough to just reduce emissions anymore. We have to actually remove carbon from the atmosphere.
Hold up, wait a minute. I was just wrapping my head around not putting stuff out year. Now we got to suck it back in. That's a whole other ballgame.
It's a big shift, for sure. But think about it. Even if we slam the brakes on emissions today, right now, hit net zero just by reducing all that carbon that's already up there, doesn't just vanish. We got to clean up the mess we already made.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. It's like we've been tidying the house, but the bathtub's still overflowing. Got to turn off the tap A&D, mop up the damage. But like on a planetary scale, how do you even DO that? Giant space vacuums.
Huh. I wish it were that easy. It's going to take a bunch of different approaches, which thankfully the principles kind of break down for us. They talk about biosphere storage and geosphere storage.
Biosphere, geosphere. Okay, that sounds a little intense. Can you bring it down to earth for me? What are we really talking about here?
Sure, sure. So the biosphere, that's all the living stuff, plants, trees, soil, all that. And they're already pulling CO2 out of the air, right? That's what they DO. So biosphere storage means giving that natural process a boost. Think massive reforestation projects, restoring ecosystems that got messed up, even changing how we do farming to trap more carbon in the ground.
Got it. So planting a tree, it's not just about making the streets look nice. It's literally sucking carbon out of the air. What about that geosphere thing? Sounds way more hardcore.
Basically, it's finding really, really secure storage for carbon we capture. And we're safer than back underground, right? Like old oil and gas fields that are empty, deep salty aquifers, those kind of places. Plus, there's some cool tech stuff like direct air capture. It's basically giant air filters suck CO2 right out of the air, then pump it deep underground.
Okay, gotta admit, giant carbon-sucking machines, that's pretty badass. But here's the thing, we're putting a lot of trust in these storage solutions. What's to stop that carbon from, leaking back out and messing everything up? That's where I get a little skeptical.
You're hitting on a super important point, and it leads us right into Principle 3, which is all about durability. Because you're right, not all carbon storage is created equal. Some ways of doing it are just way more secure long-term than others.
Durability, right? Because it's one thing to catch the carbon, but it's got to stay put, yeah. Otherwise, we're just trying to fill a leaky bucket, kind of.
Exactly. And the Oxford principles are really clear on this. If you want to call it net zero, you need carbon removal that lasts. And we're talking centuries, even thousands of years, ideally. Think about fossil fuels. They were buried for millions of years. That's the scale we got to be thinking on.
Okay, yeah, in that context, I'm guessing burying it deep underground, that geosphere thing, that's got to be the winner, right?
You're getting it. Storing CO2 in those stable rock formations, or even better, turning it into actual rock.
Yeah.
About as permanent as it gets right now.
Well, locked away for good. But what about those nature-based solutions, the forests and all that? Amazing carbon sinks, but, forest fires happen, disease, doesn't that make them kind of risky in the long run?
Good point. And that's where these principles are really smart. They get into those details. It's not about saying one thing is BAD. It's about knowing the pros and cons. Yeah, fire could release carbon back out, but well-managed forests, they can hold on to that carbon for a surprisingly long time. Hundreds of years sometimes.
So even if it's not quite as, forever as the underground stuff, a healthy forest buys us time to figure out those even longer-term solutions.
Exactly. Plus, don't forget all the other good stuff forests do. Biodiversity, helping out local communities, you name it. It's not just about the carbon. It's about a healthier planet overall.
That's what I'm loving about this whole conversation. It's not all doom and gloom. We have options, right? Tools we can actually use to fix this, but It's on us, yeah. Not just governments, not just big companies, but everyone.
Couldn't agree more. And that's the perfect segue to their last point, Principle 4, which is all about action, what WE can do to speed things up.
All right, let's do it. What's the call to action? Beyond my recycling bin, what can regular folks like me actually do to move the needle on this?
For starters, be a smart consumer. Every time you spend money, you're voting for the world you want. And right now. The demand for the really good, high-quality carbon removal, the kind that checks all the Oxford principle boxes, is not where it needs to be.
So we got to put our money where our mouth is, support companies doing it right, even if it costs a bit more or takes more effort.
Exactly. That sends a powerful signal. When companies see people willing to pay for the good stuff, they pay attention. Suddenly, investing in real climate solutions, it's just good business.
We're all becoming carbon-conscious investors in a way, funding the future, literally. But what about the bigger picture stuff? Seems like there's only so much individuals can do.
Right. We need the big systemic changes too. But those often start with a bunch of individual actions, adding up, creating a demand nobody can ignore. The principles talk about long-term purchase agreements, companies promising to buy carbon removal in the future, even if the tech's not totally there yet. That unlocks a ton of investment, speeds up innovation like crazy.
It's the ultimate pre-order, but for the planet.
Yeah.
We're showing them we want these climate solutions, so get busy building them.
Nailed it. And beyond that, use your voice. Talk to people about this stuff. Bug your elected officials. Support the groups out there fighting the good fight. Every little bit matters. Every conversation.
Man, this has been eye-opening. We went from, even IS net zero to feeling like we actually have a plan,
Yeah.
These Oxford principles, it's like, there's hope. We can actually do this. Build a future that works for everyone. A&D the planet.
Couldn't have said it better myself. The big takeaway, don't get overwhelmed, get informed.
Yeah.
Because when you understand this stuff, you're empowered. You can make choices that align with your values, build the future you want to see.
Love it. And on that note, I think I'm going to go do some research on which companies are walking the walk on this carbon removal thing. My shopping list just got a whole lot more interesting. Thanks for diving in with us, everyone. Until next time.